Join before we get started. All right, those of you who have just joined, I'm going to give it about 30 more seconds to get the last of the people and give them time to join. We are going to be talking today about the Central Indiana Waste Diversion projects, and thank you for joining us. We'll start in just a minute. All right, I'm going to go ahead and get started. Welcome. Thank you for joining us today. I am Deanna Garner, the Recycling Market Development Program Manager for IDEM's Office of Program Support. All microphones are currently muted. For attendance tracking, please take a moment to write your name and affiliation in the chat box. We will be taking questions and comments from participants during today's information session at the end of today's. All participants will be able to unmute themselves and ask questions or make comments at the appropriate times. If you have a question or technical issue during the presentation, please use the raise hand or chat features. This meeting is being recorded and will be posted on IDEM's website, recycle.in.gov. And with that, I will begin a quick introduction of IDEM's recycling grant opportunities and then move into the discussion on the Central Indiana Waste Diversion Project grants. So I did want to take a quick moment before we got into the details of our one grant program to remind everybody that we also have two other annual, typically annual recycling grants that we offer through IDEM. The Recycling Market Development Program grants, as well as the Community Recycling grants. And additional information on these can be found at our main website, the recycle.in.gov. So what is this Central Indiana Waste Diversion projects and the grants we're providing through those? This was established for purposes of determining the most practical and effective means of diverting recyclable materials from waste streams for the purpose of commercial reuse. We are now accepting these applications through October 1st. A complete details as well as the application guidelines can be found on our website. You can go to recycle.in.gov and click on the link for the Central Indiana Waste Diversion projects. This is the second round of funding for these projects as approved by our legislatures. Some key dates to keep in mind: the application process is open now and will run through October 1st. After October 1st, there will be a review process internally of IDEM, and recommendations will be provided to the Recycling Market Development Board for approval. The board will approve those at their first meeting of 2025. The date is still to be determined, but it should be early February 2025. And then we would draft the contracts. Those draft contract process takes usually about 3 months. So we're looking at a target date of May 2025 for project start dates after the contract has been completed. Who is eligible? Private sector entities throughout Marion, Hamilton, Hancock, Shelby, Johnson, Morgan, Hendricks, and Boone County. These is Marion County and the surrounding donut counties. Candidates may seek funding up to $3.7 million and a 50% cash match is required. Priority for these projects will be given to the largest amount of waste diversion potential, and project duration should not exceed 4 years after the date that the project commences. And quick note on that project duration. I think someone asked me this. Obviously, projects are ongoing, but the project startup and installing the equipment and getting it running and moving through that process should not exceed 4 years. So some objectives and priorities around this funding opportunity. An applicant must demonstrate direct connectivity and diversion of valuable raw materials for procurement to Indiana-based end markets as a commodity. Other considerations in addition to that include the amount and type of material to be diverted, the economic development results of the project, infrastructure expansion, and the feasibility of expansion of the project throughout Indiana. Submissions for the Central Indiana Waste Diversion Project's funding is available via the grant portal, which is found on the website previously mentioned, recycle.in.gov. Then you will click on the CIWDP, and this must include a completed Central Indiana Diversion Project application, which is a state web form. We'll click on that link provided on the web page, which will take you to an online form to complete. I do recommend while you're on that page and filling out the web form to click on the top right-hand corner to log in, and there will be an option to create an account if you don't already have one. Creating that account allows you to save your progress or go back in at a later time and make changes to your application. Applicants must provide complete and detailed responses to all the questions. Incomplete responses may result in a determination that the application is incomplete and therefore not considered for funding. After you complete the online web form, you also need to make sure that you provide the following additional information as an attachment that you will upload, and that includes quotes for service and equipment. This is in addition to the budget table that you complete during the online form process. Proof of funding for the required cash match of at least 50% of the eligible cost towards the project must be provided, as well as supporting documents that you may have, including letters of support, partnership agreements, project flow diagrams, location maps, and any other additional materials. Some quick tips and guidance on as you're filling out the application. These applications and applicants must be in good standing and compliant with all federal, state, and local regulations. And I'm going to repeat this because it can't be said enough. They must provide detailed responses to all applicable questions. We don't want, there will be a box for you to fill out the questions. We want more than a one-sentence answer. Propose, and then of course, applicants must also propose a project that best matches the purposes as they're set forth in the code, IC 1320-26-1A. And those purpose, I'm going to go into a little bit more detail now. So this purpose of these projects is to determining the most practical and effective means of addressing domestic supply chain disruptions that result in scarcity of raw materials necessary for manufacturing in other industries in Indiana, increased prices of those raw materials, and manufacturing delays, employment fluctuations, and stagnant growth. It is also to prevent the unnecessary disposal of potentially valuable recyclable materials in landfills and waste incinerators, while stimulating economic development, including the creation of employment opportunities throughout Indiana and market development through the reuse of recyclable materials by diverting the materials from waste streams throughout the project area for commercial reuse. Some other purposes that were created for this project are advancing research and development to enhance existing waste diversion efforts and support creation of new processes and technologies that expand upon the existing universe of waste diversion and reuse of recyclable material. It also supports recycling technology or programs that involve the return, collection, and sorting of recyclable glass, aluminum, or plastic beverage containers, technologies that are accessible to the general public and are operated by retail merchants, professional sports or entertainment venues, airports, or schools for students between kindergarten and grade 12, and institutes of higher education. In addition, projects should help determine the feasibility of expansion of the waste diversion program throughout Indiana and the potential for future market development. As item reviews these applications, some of the things that we will be looking at is the amount and type of waste diverted, the method for waste collection, sorting, and diversion, quantifiable measurement of outcomes, identification of end-use markets, and additional information that demonstrates potential success of the project, which may include a cost-benefit analysis, partnerships, and additional funding contributions. A little bit more about the award process. The recommendations that item will look at, we'll review all of them and then forward them on with additional comments to the Recycling Market Development Board by December 1st. Applicants will be notified via email of items decisions, and recommended applicants are invited to the next scheduled board meeting to be available to answer specific questions and clarifications from the board. The notification that the applicant's proposed project has been recommended to the board for award consideration is not a funding award or an authorization to begin implementing the project. Projects, again, should not begin implementation until a contract is in place or an agreed upon date of that contract has been put together. Awarded projects, before the project can be implemented, the board must award the project, and this is just repeating what I just said, an agreed upon start date, and incorporate that into the grant agreement. Any purchases made outside the project term will not be eligible for funding. Funds necessary to implement the project will be dispersed upon execution of the grant agreement. A portion of the funding will be held until the last quarter of the project. There is some reporting requirements that go along with these grant opportunity. So if awarded funding, a quarterly progress report is required after execution of the agreement. This quarterly progress report must summarize the technical progress, planned activities, summary and proof of expenditures, amount and type of waste diverted, final destination and end use of materials diverted, and other relevant information. In addition, awardees are required to submit an annual report via the ReTrack Connect online reporting system to item. So that's the real quick nuts and bolts information about the pilot projects, not pilot anymore, excuse me, but the Central Indiana Waste Diversion projects. This is my information as well as my colleague Tom Lee's information. We're always happy to answer any additional questions. If there's a specific project you have in mind that you want to run by us, First, I always recommend that you reach out to us via phone or email. Either is fine. And with that, I can open up. I'm going to stop sharing, and I'm going to open up opportunity to answer any questions that you guys may have. If you raise your hand, and then I can see who is interested, has a question, and call on you. Okay, Joseph McMurray, you have a question?
Yes, just to verify, since it's private sector, Purdue University, as an example, would not be able to be the lead on the grant. Is that a correct statement?
That is correct. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's a new addition to the second round of funding that it's specified in their private sector. So, although Purdue would be a great partner to a private sector entity. Steve, you have a question? Go ahead and unmute yourself. Oh, I still can't hear you.
First of all, is the presentation, is it available? The one you just went through, is that on the website?
It is not there yet, but after this, I am recording it now, so we will make it available next week, by next week.
Okay, and then second, in terms of examples of waste diversion, I think you used glass and aluminum and plastic. Is that correct?
Those are examples, and but it's not restricted to those materials.
Okay,
however.
So it can get into, let's say, construction materials that might go into landfills, for instance, if there's the means of diverting those would qualify.
Yes.
Okay. Very good. That's all I had. Thank you.
You're welcome. And Steve Lundergren, you have a question as well for me?
Yes, I had a couple of questions. And it really revolves around the definition of what's a dedicated Indiana-based market for commercial use of the product. I assume a brokerage operation where a broker based in Indiana was buying a recycled product would not count. Is that true?
That would be correct. Yeah.
Okay. But if there was a company that was taking, for instance, a plastic and pelletizing it, and then selling it to another company out of state who would buy the pellets as a raw material for their process, I assume that would qualify?
Okay, I think I need to hear the question again. So they're selling the material, the pellets.
They're taking a plastic and they're cleaning it up. Plastic that was going to a landfill, they're cleaning it up and selling it to a company that is pelletizing. So they're melting that cleaned up plastic, pelletizing it, and then they are reselling it to a company that will use those pellets as part of their raw materials stream.
I think we would look at that as to like what the definition of an end market is, right?
Right.
So is the end market that person who's pelletizing it, but you're saying then the pellets may go out of state after that, correct?
Right. The pelletizing company's only role is to get it into a form that can be used by another consumer.
I think that if applying, you just need to make your case for that's being the end market and explain best way to in your application to the board that this is the Indiana-based end market that you're using.
Okay. And can there be any financial interest between the recycling company and the end user?
Yeah, I don't think there's any problems with that I'm aware of. I did want to comment. I did want to circle back just and if you have something else.
No,
sorry.
no.
Okay. On the other Steve's question about the materials for waste diversion, one thing I did want to specify is that in statute, it says diversion from final disposal, and final disposal is clearly defined in our state statutes. So incinerator, landfill. So sometimes projects like construction projects may already go to reuse or may already go somewhere else that's not a final disposal place, and you're diverting the waste, but you're not necessarily diverting it from final disposal, right? So that's, I guess, this distinction that does need to be made.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah, that makes total sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I had another question. So I think you mentioned 3.6 million is the max, right? And
3.7, yes.
or 3.7. So that's that would be a total of 7.4 million with the match from the other entities. Is that correct?
Right. So it could, yeah.
So is there
So,
a minimum? Is there a minimum?
There is not.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. All right, we have a few, time for additional questions, if you have any. If you guys do not have questions, again, I just want to remind you that I'm always available throughout the process before you apply to run any questions by me. Make sure that, I'm not the one that's really going to award these. It is the Recycling Market Development Board. But I can definitely provide additional guidance on any things that you guys might have.
I had one other question. So let's say we put together this this application and we think it looks great and everything else, but before we submit it, can we send it through somebody to just get comments back, or is there that type of facilitation or what?
So there's we can't really tell you how to write the application,
I understand.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but we can provide you with what the board needs to see in the application and make sure that you're completing the answers correctly.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
And I do see in the comments a question about specific office hours to reach out with questions. Typically, anytime between 8 and 4 o'clock is when we're around, noon being lunchtime. So emails are great, and I can always, we can always range a time through email if you prefer phone calls as well. So, and then I think I will address a few things, comments. I did see that there were some questions sent to me during the registration process, and I don't think they've been asked here. I was giving a chance for that. But one question that was asked, can the projects be based off of a pre-existing effort that we are seeking to further develop, or whether these are startup ideas? And no, they can be expansions of a project, or, one business looking to expand into another area of their base market. So those are eligible, as well as the startup ideas. Another question, if we have different projects, will we be able to apply for different grants, or can we only apply for one project scope under one grant? And as mentioned, we do have the other recycling grant opportunities through IDEM. You can apply through all 3 grant programs, and you are eligible to have multiple grants through the different grant programs, as long as it's not the same project. But I do recommend you only have one application per grant that is out there. Some people think, oh, well, I have 2 projects, maybe I can apply with 2 different applications for the same grant, but we usually recommend trying to combine those as much as possible, and then the board can look at it and sometimes the board will look at your project and consider funding all of it, or they may consider funding a portion of it as well.
I had one other question. So can there be multiple winners, I assume? Yes?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I can't recall, what is the cumulative amount that you're putting out for this round?
So it is the 3.7 million. That
Gotcha.
is how much is available in funding.
Gotcha.
And so grantees, can request the complete amount of the 3.7 million or anything below.
Sure.
As long as they have that, 50% cash match available.
Yep.
So this is kind of new for the board. They determined to do it this way. And so there's a possibility there's one large project they fund or multiple smaller projects. So we just don't know at this point. All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and type in my email address one more time in the grants. Excuse me, trying to type and talk at the same time. Not my greatest. Type in my email address into the chat feature. And if there are no other questions, did I just see someone raise their hand?
I did, Deanna. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Do you have a problem with me telling people what my company is?
No, that's fine.
Okay. My name is Steve Lundergan, and I have a grant writing business, and I've worked with IDEM in the past. I'm very familiar with what they need from a grant writing perspective. So if anyone were to need any help in submitting this application, we'd be more than happy to help you. And my number is 260-433-4425.
Let's see.
Deanna,
Yes.
this is Joe McMurray. I have another question again, just out of pure curiosity. Since Steve mentioned that, does the grant allow for in the budget for costing pre-award work? So some grants allow you to claw back some of the money that you spent writing the proposal. Other grants do not. And given Steve's comment, I was curious if this grant allowed that or not.
Yeah, this grant does not allow for that. That's a great question. Yeah, any expenses incurred before the project term has been determined is not eligible for funding.
Okay, just curious. Thank you.
And Lydia, you have a question?
Hey, I was just curious, does the dollar amount of a proposal affect the selection criteria? Let's say we have, a $3 million project. Would that weigh in on the criteria? And do you have more information on the selection criteria other than what's in the RFP?
Right. So all the details, all the selection criteria are listed either in the guidance, the RFP document, or the application guidance on our website, or it's linked to the state statute as well there. So that's what we have to go on. And the question regarding dollar amount, I think you're asking, is there a consideration maybe given to one project over another based on the dollar amount? Is that kind of what you're asking?
Yeah, and if there were more funding left for multiple projects versus, a smaller project being funded.
Yeah, there's no specifications around that. And just kind of historically, I can speak to what I've seen the Recycling Market Development Board do, and They do like to fund as many projects as possible. But they do have to look at that criteria that I went over today. And so, one of those main criteria is, biggest impact, largest amount, potential for diversion from final disposal. So those are the main criteria they're going to look at. They're not going to look at the dollar amount and award based on the dollar amount being requested. But that being said, what's happened in past award processes is that the board may ask the applicant if they will accept less money. If so sometimes they look to, award an amount that's less than the requested amount so that they may award additional projects. So hopefully that helps answer that question.
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, if there's no additional questions, you get a little bit, about half hour back of your time today. Again, one final time, feel free to reach out to me and discuss your projects. I'm looking forward to seeing some great applicants. This is a really unique, exciting opportunity to be able to give some additional funding from our recycling market funds. And I hope that you will all look into it and hopefully apply, and look forward to seeing those and reviewing them. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.